Here's your Exxon Valdez oil spill that I mentioned earlier. Here's your little stencils. But again, I'm back to the question of away. And hopefully I've belabored that point enough. And here's your image of all these bottles. Here's your little garbage patch I talked about. It's massive. It's massive. The thing is really big. It's really big. And here's a sign from Santa Barbara. Someone will go see from the little rainwater garbage. So I'm interested in this idea that we really think about the concept of harvesting, and that rainfall is an option to harvest. And so you look to these porous systems. So here's what's called a rain garden. It's at Glencoe Elementary School in Portland. And if you look that up on the web, they've done incredible data on this, the city and a bunch of engineers. So this pipe comes from a parking lot over here off the picture that has, all that oil. And the pipe used to go like this and out to the river. They cut the pipe, raised up the inlet elevation, and now it flows through this living biofiltration-based system of carex, in this case sedges, right? Sedges have edges, and rushes are round, and grasses are hollow from top to ground. Or sedges have edges, and rushes are round, and grasses like asses have holes. But in the matrix of the sedge, in the soil, in the humus, is the soil food web. And that's where the business of this whole game is. Fungus especially. Amazing work on fungus and what fungus do. And when oil's coming down the pipe and you've got a saprophytic fungus in there with its mycelium just waiting, and it just starts having this Pavlovian syndrome, is salivating over waiting to exothermically break that carbon-hydrogen bond and get fed. Waste equals food. And this fungus breaks oil back down to basic atomic parts, zero pollution, zero residual, edible mushrooms if you're doing it with oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. Look at the work of Paul Stamets, fungi.com, a book called Mycelium Running. Amazing work with fungus. And so you get into this whole soil system, and a good soil structure should be 50% pore space by volume for air and water and roots and penetration. Soil structure. A teaspoon of old-growth soil that's intact should have 6 billion organisms in it per teaspoon. There are linear livers that we intercept the sheet flow. In case this goes to the Napa at the Copia building, if anyone's been there, Napa. It's not a groundwater recharge structure in that case because the soils don't do that. Here's a friend, Bill Wilson, in Mill Valley in Marin County. Had his old driveway when he bought the house, failing and funky. So he pulled it up, right? Put in a porous base of different types of gravel, filled it with these pavers, and then the interstitial space, the water goes through. And in this case, his driveway has zero net runoff on the entire driveway surface. In a 3-inch storm event off a 1,000 square foot of roof at the downspout dumping onto this driveway, the pool of surface water was no greater than 3 feet before it went in, straight in. And it's related, he lives a creek in his backyard, and he's infiltrating an alluvial aquifer under the house that then leaks out into the creek to keep it flowing in the dry season in summer. So it's this problem-solution question. He's got a whole pan system he does. These are called epic pans. You can look them up. In his backyard, they're under this lawn now. Catch the rainfall in the pan. They're plumbed together, so they either catch rainfall or they can be pressurized with a recycled water, your irrigation water, gray water for subsurface disposal. And you can have basically, it doesn't have to be lawn. You can do any vegetation community that won't mind its feet sitting in that type of system. No net runoff in his entire parcel between the driveway and what he's done around the house. And his water budget, 50% of water annually for people's residential use goes to landscape. And if you move into a rainwater harvesting system with a xeriscape, imagine if Los Angeles got rid of 50% of its water demand through landscape alone, and they can catch 50% through retention, then they just balance their water budget with no need to import water. I mean, is it going to literally be that easy? No, but it's, right? This is the way we're going to have to think it through. Road ditches are being dealt with. Here's a subdivision in Tucson. The fun part is that they designed these walking spaces that are sunken. I don't know what's up with this whole trip of mounding. soils in these landscapes. If you need to plant a tree and you don't necessarily want the crown, you might mound the tree, but these mounded landscapes, I know there's some textural intrigue to have some topography to your form, but we need sunken waffle gardens, they're called, and set this up in Tucson to be 100% on-site infiltration, stormwater retaining, groundwater recharging, native wild butterfly, hummingbird habitat system, right? Electric free, because there ain't no pumps, because there's no irrigation, no pipes, there's no plastic, there's no chlorine, no PVC. Imagine the savings. Do the math for me. By one design element, what we can do. I guess I find it exciting. So we're looking to have it run on, not run off. And this is a parking lot in Portland that's set up the same way. And in this case, they don't do groundwater recharge. If they have too much water, they have enough to get rid of it, or they have an underground outlet there. But you've got all this biology improving water quality prior to discharge. Here's a tennis court. Hard to play tennis here, right? This was a tennis court at a middle school in Portland, 6th, 7th, 8th grade magnet school. This is called the Da Vinci Water Garden. Look that up on the web, you'll find a whole site on it. And they pulled up the asphalt. Again, they didn't ask about it, whose was the fault for it, right? And this is roof water harvesting from these portables in a couple tanks. They've got flow-form fountain with a pond for koi, and then surface water catchment from the parking lot, groundwater recharge, planted with a native community and edibles. So they've got alders and apples mixed in pears and choke cherries and thimbleberries and such. I had to climb the fence to get this photo. I went back 2 years later, and the alders are 30 feet tall, and the whole thing is a green jungle, and you can no longer see into it anymore. And this was designed, implemented, installed, monitored, and maintained by 6th, 7th, and 8th graders as a fully integrated curricular link to their entire classroom setup. Right? Now, in stormwater, we don't want to make mosquito breeding habitats, so West Nile virus is a big deal, and I honor that. As an ornithologist, I'm much more concerned about it, to be honest with you, because it's really nailing native birds. But West Nile virus is what I'm more concerned about when it's all said and done. Here's one of those things that they did in the Sun Valley project, pulled up this underground chambers, a lot of concrete, cost benefit, embodied energy over the long run. Does it pay itself off? You've got to weigh the numbers. But, out of this, they got ball fields and things, and the kids get to look in the chambers and see the water stored. And I think they've just done amazing work in LA. This is Seattle. Straight streets, cars go fast, bad parking, failing storm drains, kids don't get to play tag in the street, mom ain't letting it happen. It's just a bad design. Form follows dysfunction, right? So what do? Well, you think like water, same house, and it's curvy, better parking, sidewalks, and on-site in situ infiltration rain gardens along the entire corridor. These are called C Streets, SEA, Street Edge Alternatives. And Seattle, because of the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act for salmon, is remaking most of sections of whole old neighborhoods, street by street by street, and all new development is even better than this. And the interesting thing is in these old neighborhoods, after they rework them, right, so they take them from that to that, the property values in the homes are running 15 to 20% more in the remade neighborhood because it's safer, better parking, walkable, more beautiful. So the economics are there. Just the real estate agents alone are on this game. And I work with a program right now, a green real estate agent certification program. The real estate agents get this. They're clear that it's in their business interest, if you will, even in this market of absurdity.